I think I finally figured out why this whole retirement thing has been so weird for me, so discombobulating and unsettling and just jarring. And the ironic thing is that the whole motivating drive behind my early retirement is turning out to be the hardest part of it. I don't want to say the bad part because I know I need to look at this and get through it. And when I get to the other side, it will be better. But I was not anticipating this at all. And if you are someone whose primary goal with retirement and all of your savings effort is being driven by this need for freedom, then you are probably going to come up against this too. So allow me to unpack it for you. I've shared this before, but if you're new here, I started about 10 years ago. It was really 2017, is 2026 now, dramatically saving for retirement because I had heard a podcast, Mr. Money Mustache, and the whole FIRE movement. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I need. Because at the time, I was working in corporate and it was sucking the life out of me, absolutely sucking the life out of me. And it never occurred to me that there was an alternate way of living your life. So when I heard about it, I was all in. And the primary motivator for me was freedom. That is my highest personal value. And when I say freedom, for me, that means being able to choose what I want to do, where I want to do it, with whom I want to do it, and when I want to do it. Because I have spent my whole life being performative to survive, the way we all have, right? Like from the time you start school, you are expected to perform in a certain way in order to see success, whether it's passing a test in fourth grade, getting into a good university, or getting raises from your boss. All of it is so freaking performative. And personally, I have used this performative energy as my means for survival. I think some of it is trauma related from my past, which I will not get into, but I have always used performance as a way to cope. I've always tried to do things right or not take up as much space or do just what I think other people expect of me in order to fit in and be the person other people expect me to be. So there's a little bit of personal reflection in that, which you may not identify with, but I have never really had the courage to just explore who I am as a person and allow that person to evolve. I've always been looking at what do other people need from me and how do I perform such that I meet their expectations and I continue to be accepted both at work and in my relationships and all of those things. Performance as a coping mechanism has been something that I've done my whole life. And when I heard about FIRE, something clicked because while there is still a social element of performance that I think all humans need throughout their entire life, the energetic drain of having to be performative at work, not only in whatever it is you produce, but in putting on a smiley face to be around coworkers that you may not want to be around and show up in the office that you don't want to be in and get up at the time you have to get up at. Everything that relates to being in performance or performative mode around work suddenly no longer is relevant. And the thought of that was just like, oh, that is what I want. So I went after it gung-ho, and I don't know that I was like articulating it that way. I hadn't really put words to that emotion, but that is what was fueling my efforts to save for retirement. So fast forward to this place where I can retire and I'm no longer in corporate. So some of that energetic performative stuff has gone away. But even as a business owner, I still have the need to perform in certain ways. Instead of having a boss, I have clients or I have an audience and I'm selling things. So I still need to show up and perform and do the things that you need to do in order to run a business successfully. And this year, or towards the end of last year, I felt like my business and the offers that I had would need to be revamped. So I would have to recreate my business again as I have done previously. And at this point, now that I didn't really have to because I didn't need the money to do it, it made it very difficult for me to want to do anything else in my business. I had this moment now where I could step back and say, instead of me just thinking, what do I want to do next in my business? I was able to ask myself the question, do I want to have a business? And as I've shared in other videos, that's a hard question to answer, not just because of either working or not working, but also when you have your own business and you've worked really hard to build something, it's hard to just walk away from that. If I were just a full-time employee, it would be like, yeah, later, dudes. But when it's your own thing, it's your baby, there's a lot of different things to it. And it's starting to become very clear to me now that I am in this position where I don't have to be performative anymore. And I wasn't prepared for how that would feel or what it would mean for me. Because now that it's my choice whether or not I move forward in my business, it feels like everything is starting to, this is going to sound dramatic, but things are starting to fall apart. At least that's how it's felt to me, right? And there's the things that I used to have to do to perform are no longer necessary. And it has been very jarring. And today I was watching a YouTube video. God love YouTube. It's the algorithm serves things up to me when I need to see them. And I randomly found this, I think he's a therapist. And in this video, he was explaining the process of transformation. It wasn't his framework, but he explained it as 3 phases: organize, disorganize, reorganize. So your organized phase of life is when you're doing all of these performative things. It's what's expected of you and you do them, and that's just how life goes. And the more you comply, the better your life seems to go and the easier things are because you're doing all the right things. And then at some point in your life, whether it's getting older or getting a health scare or retiring, all of those things now start to shift because you're no longer being the performative person. And when you have that space and time and freedom, you start to question everything. I no longer have to show up the way I used to show up. But now I don't know how to show up because I don't really know the true version. There's like a layer of myself I've never met before that I'm being faced with right now. And I know this may make sense, might not make sense based on whether or not you're like a overthinker like I am, but I am feeling like everything that I have known and how I've operated is being questioned in this moment. And that is what is discombobulating, because I literally have to recreate myself as this person who is still interacting in the world, but is no longer doing so for performative motivation. That motivation has completely gone, and I have to make choices based on a different set of criteria. And I'm not even sure what that criteria is yet, because if it's not performative, if it's not, I'm going to do this thing so that I'm accepted and that I get a paycheck and, you know, that life keeps running the way it's supposed to. If none of those things are true anymore, why and how and where am I even showing up? So yes, I have the freedom that I was so desperate for 10 years ago, but I had no idea how confronting that would be. So I am definitely in this disorganized stage of life. And if I'm being completely honest, I thought like I was falling apart. I thought, is this beyond midlife, I think? So maybe 3/4 life crisis. I don't know. But the way this psychologist talked about it, he said, if you are in this moment of disorganization, you're not broken and you're not failing and you're not falling apart, even though that's exactly what I thought was happening. He's like, you're just reorganizing. And what's going to happen is the 3rd phase, when you do reorganize, you become this very true and authentic version of yourself. Not to say that I'm living life being a fake person or not being authentic. I think I'm authentically being me, but I'm also doing it from this place of performative motivation. And when that goes away, you really do have to question everything that you've been doing and why you've been doing it, because the motivation to do it is no longer there. And that was just such an enlightening thing for me to hear, that on the other side of this, there will be a reorganization of something much truer and more genuine and more peaceful. That was the other thing he said. There's a wisdom and a joy and a sense of peace when you've reorganized to become the person you are truly meant to be when nobody's looking, because nobody is looking, and there's no more expectation on you to act and be a certain person. So anyway, for what it's worth, I wanted to share that because I really have been feeling like what is happening in my life right now? And it has been very jarring. Again, not bad, because I never want to come across as though I'm complaining about this. I wanted this, I worked hard for it, and I'm grateful for it. But it's also scary and discombobulating. And I have thought very hard about actually not retiring now, just because this has been so discombobulating. But I didn't have the words and context for it yet. And now I realize whether I retire tomorrow or 3 months from now or 3 years from now, I'm still going to have to go through this process, right? It's an unbecoming and a rebecoming. And it feels weird, but I now know that on the other side of this, there's good things waiting. Anyway, for what it's worth, I hope that I have shared something that perhaps has shed some light on a situation you might be going through, or maybe you didn't go through this at all. I would love to know if you did not feel that way, and maybe this is just my personal experience, which is also fine. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.